The cemetery stood still under a cloudy sky, a somber canvas of gray and green. Mourners gathered, eyes wet with sorrow. The priest's voice wavered in a final prayer as the coffin descended into the earth's embrace. A tremor quivered through the ground, hushing the crowd. Eyes widened in disbelief as the coffin began to shake, a muted drumbeat of horror echoing. Gasps fluttered like leaves in a storm, the priest's hands outstretched in fear. During the funeral of Betty, a woman who was loved by the whole community, something started to happen that no one saw coming. The ceremony was beautiful, and many people spoke about the wonderful things Betty had done in her life as a school teacher. Sebastian was the first to notice how the coffin of his deceased wife began to move. At first, he thought nothing of it, as the machine that lowered her coffin into the grave was also shaking. The priest took a minute to think. "I think we might have to open the coffin," he eventually said, locking eyes with Sebastian. Sebastian could almost feel the color draining from his face. He didn't want to look into the coffin, as his wife didn't die of natural causes. She died because of a car accident, which left her almost unrecognizable. He began to stammer, looking around him for some comfort. His mother saw his distraught look and came to the rescue, hugging her son tightly. "I'll do it," she said with a confident tone, but Sebastian knew this was way out of her comfort zone. She only did this for him. They told the priest they would see what they could do, but moving a shaking coffin wasn't an easy task. Together, they used the hydraulic lift to move the coffin out of the grave and onto the ground. They paused for a second as they stared at the coffin, waiting for something to happen, but nothing happened. The priest looked at Sebastian with kind eyes. "I could look inside as well, you know," he said. "You don't have to sacrifice your good memories of her." Sebastian looked at the ground. Sebastian stood motionless, his gaze locked on the unmoving coffin. A tumult of fear and love warred within him. The stillness of the coffin, once pulsing with inexplicable tremors, seemed to echo his own paralyzed state. Caught between a desperate urge to step forward and a profound dread that anchored him in place, he found himself lost in an agonizing limbo. Doubts haunted Sebastian's thoughts. Could the coffin's movement be a sign, a mechanical error, or something more mysterious? His skeptical mind struggled against the irrational thoughts spawned by his grief, further entangling him in a web of uncertainty. Noticing Sebastian's distress, the priest approached with a comforting presence. He placed a reassuring hand on Sebastian's shoulder, a silent promise of support. The priest spoke softly, his words imbued with faith and strength. "In times of doubt, we must lean on our faith," he murmured, his voice a soothing balm to Sebastian's troubled heart. Before touching the coffin, the priest paused, bowing his head in prayer. "Grant you as courage and understanding," he whispered, seeking solace and strength from a higher power. The air charged with anticipation and dread. As the lid creaked open, the priest braced himself, ready to confront whatever mystery lay within the confines of the solemn, wooden box. The priest's eyes met something startling within the coffin. His composed demeanor faltered, replaced by a flicker of sheer disbelief. This rare show of bewilderment from the priest sent a silent shockwave through Sebastian, who stood beside him. The priest's unexpected reaction to the sight of the dark confines of the coffin hinted at a reality far beyond their comprehension. Sebastian's heart raced, his mind fraught with questions and fears, all stemming from the priest's single, unnerving glimpse into the coffin. What could have elicited such a reaction from the priest? Was it something grotesque, a grim twist in an already bizarre situation? Sebastian, driven by a profound sense of love and duty, approached the coffin's edge. His heart ached with the memory of their life together, a tapestry of joy, challenges, and shared dreams. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Sebastian prepared to peer inside the coffin. His heart pounded, a drumbeat echoing in the stillness. As the lid fully opened, Sebastian's eyes met an unexpected sight. Betty lay there, peaceful as if in deep slumber. He found himself momentarily lost in the calmness of her visage, a poignant reminder of their shared moments of quietude. If Betty lay so serene, what had caused the coffin to shake so violently? The dissonance between the peace he saw before him and the earlier unrest created a whirlpool of questions in his mind. Again, as they carefully investigated the source of the movement, a small squirrel, evidently frightened and confused, emerged from its hiding place within the coffin's lining. The small creature, its presence so out of place in this solemn setting, was the unlikely cause of the earlier disturbance. The mystery that had evoked the funeral began to unravel with this unforeseen revelation. The sight of the squirrel triggered a flood of memories for Sebastian. He remembered how Betty's face would light up whenever she tended to the animals in their garden. As Sebastian recalled Betty's love for animals, his eyes brimmed with tears, yet a smile touched his lips. He remembered her gentle hands feeding squirrels and her laughter as they playfully scampered around her. Holding the squirrel gently, Sebastian felt a deep connection to Betty. This small creature, an unintended guest at her funeral, had brought her essence back to life in a most unexpected way. Moved by the day's revelations and his memories of Betty, Sebastian made a heartfelt decision. He would care for the squirrel, honoring Betty's legacy of compassion. Caring for the squirrel became more than just a responsibility, it was a way to keep Betty's memory alive. Each day, as Sebastian watched over the small creature, he was reminded of Betty's gentle spirit.